Jai Hind.
Yep.
Jai Hind.
Welcome, one, and welcome all in this wonderful session named
Can't
Wind
hear you.
Beneath. Am I audible? I'll just ask the
No,
panelists once
I
so
didn't hear
that.
anything.
I can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay. Shafali, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay. So I will go again. Jai Hind. Welcome, one, welcome all to this wonderful session called Wind Beneath Wings. As the CatFit ideology says,
Kuru not hearing.
Sir, I suggest you put on the earphones. That will help you in hearing
All
clearly,
right.
sir.
One
Sir.
second.
Sir.
I can hear you,
Take your
Kuru.
time, sir. Take your time, sir. So as CatFit ideology says, mindset matters. It's all here. हिंदी में कहते हैं मन के हारे हार है, मन के जीते जीत. मन को जिसने मजबूत रख लिया उसने बड़े से बड़े दुश्मन को पछाड़ दिया. And today the two gentlemen whom we have here, the officers and gentlemen, these two officers here have given their best years to the uniform. They have done the country proud. They have done the service proud. They have done their family and community proud. They have done themselves proud. They are the two proud gentlemen whom we have here. It's my privilege and sheer honor to welcome both of them on this platform of CatFit. Air Commodore K.C. Kuruvilla Veer Chakra sir. He was commissioned into Indian Air Force in the year 1967. A Sword of Honor, winner and recipient of President's Plaque from Dr. Zakir Hussain in the year 1967. He was also the winner of Chief of Air Staff Medal for Best All-Round Jet Pilot, along with the first position in academics. These were some of the achievements that he had secured before joining the legendary 7th Squadron Battle Axis of the Indian Air Force at his first posting itself. His performance as a young fighter pilot saw him moving to 222 Squadron equipped with the then latest state-of-the-art Sukhoi 7 strike aircraft in 1969. And it keeps getting better. This was the same squadron in which he was serving during the war. And it was also the unit where he was reposted to after his release from Pakistan, where he was prisoner of war for not just 1 or 2 months, but for 1 complete year. As the session moves by, we will get to know more about his journey as prisoners of war and what kept him going. Well, moving on, his illustrious career saw him going places far and wide. Instructor in Iraq, defense attaché in Iran, flying instructor in Air Force Academy, directing staff at College of Air Warfare, raising the first HAL manufactured MiG-27 ML squadron. Oh my God, sir, gives me great pride. He was the commanding officer of Air Force Station Avantipur and Air Force commanding Air Force Station Jodhpur, leading it to be the best of Southwestern Air Command. Nothing less expected from you, sir. Well, these were some of his many accomplishments during the long military career. Now he's happily settled and leading an active retired life. Well, it's not retired, it's active retired life. He keeps himself busy with the social work, motivational talks, and we are so thankful, sir, that you are part of this session today. We really look forward to listening more wonderful things from you. Welcome to you, sir. And now I move on
Thank
to
you.
the next illustrious guest, Air Commodore M.M. Ali, Vayu Sena Medal. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Air Commodore Ali joined the Indian Air Force in 1965 as a trainee cadet and was commissioned in 1967 as helicopter pilot. So on one side, we've got a jet pilot, and on the other side, we've got the helicopter pilot, and we will see that these two forces, how they rule the skies. He has flown in the thick jungles of Northeast, the Himalayas, and the vast desert of Rajasthan. His varied experience speaks for itself. He has held various appointments in his career. As an instructor, he had the opportunity to be sent to Iraq as flying specialist to train Iraqi pilots for 2 years from 1986 to 88. He took active part in 1971 Indo-Pak War and witnessed the surrender ceremony in Dhaka on 16th December 1971. How I envy you, sir, for being there on that momentous occasion, which we have only seen in photographs. And on this Swarnim Varsh of 1971 war, what better guests could have been here? He has the distinction of flying Indian and foreign VVIPs in various parts of the country. The air officer has commanded a helicopter unit and was chief operations officer of a flying base. He has commanded 2 stations, one at Nagpur and another at Leh. Before his retirement, he was Deputy Director General of NCC of Karnataka and Goa. And I'm sure, sir, you must have shaped the career and the characters of the young cadets there. Well, in 2015, he was detailed to represent Indian Air Force in Dhaka in their Victory Day celebration, which the government of Bangladesh extends as annual invitation to Indian armed forces who took part in the liberation of their country. And sir, it must have been a very momentous occasion for you, I am sure. Must have brought back a lot of memories from that time. Now, the officer and the gentleman loves to read and sketch in his time. He keeps a strict control on his diet and is regular with his daily walks, which we can certainly see in your very well-built physique, sir. You have kept up the fitness level to a next level. Well, Shefali, what do you say about the 2 guests here?
Thank you.
Well, I must say that I'm still in awe of them. And, I mean, I can go on and on, but, I must say something here which is very necessary. I must talk about Captain Yashika Hatwal Tyagi herself. She's a war veteran, TEDx speaker, Josh Talk speaker. She was commissioned into the Army Ordnance Corps in 1994. At the time of joining the Indian Army, I must say the entry of women was still at a nascent stage and policies were still being formulated. At that time, you can imagine what it would have been like. Currently, she is following her passion to work in the domain of training and community development. It is her endeavor to impart life lessons learned over such a period of time. And of course, she is a part of CatFit. We welcome you here too, ma'am.
Thank you, Shefali. Always
I mean, we are really honored to have this esteemed panel with us today. But I would like to put my first question to Commodore Kuruvilla. Sir, being a prisoner of war must have been a daunting experience. Today we see people give up very easily under pressure, very easily. What will you say to the people? Why is it important not to give up?
Well, Shefali, let me answer that question for you by actually telling you a little bit about myself, in the sense that I went into boarding school at the age of 5 and literally came out at 56. In between, I knew I had parents, but I didn't know where they were because we were all in boarding school. One sibling in each place. That's where my father, who was a chartered accountant with the Imperial Bank of India, left us and started with Lamartine in Calcutta. And I stayed there almost and did the majority of my schooling. So these were really tough schools. And from these kind of tough schools, I also went to the NDA. So what was the commonality between these schools, the NDA and the Air Force, and being a prisoner of war? Every day one learned that change brings opportunity. And if you look at that from that perspective, if you look at life, that whatever change comes your way, you see an opportunity in it, you grab it. And you grab it to suit your own growth, personal growth. So that's precisely what led me at the end of my schooling to actually opt for a military life. Of course, in between, there was a small incident which I would like to relate. I finally met up with my father at the age of 16 in Dhanbad, where he was the agent, State Bank of India. By then it had changed. And just like the services, the Imperial Bank had huge bungalows. And my father on a Sunday would sit in the lawn, which was really huge. When I say huge, it was like, say, 120 feet by 80 feet, just the lawn. Yeah. So one Sunday he was seated in his usual routine, and he summoned me. So I found a chair in front of him, and he seated me down, and then he looked straight at me and he said, I have a pet name called Ben. So he said, for Bennett, which was one of his bosses. So every boss he had, he named one sibling after him. So
How
very
lovely to
funny,
scold
actually.
your son taking boss's name, sir.
Yeah.
Imagine
So,
that. Yes.
so he sat me down and he said, Bennett, would you like to have a drink? Now, this caught me completely off guard. I'm 16, possibly trying to make a man out of me. But I recall that my sisters, who were really tiny, would take a sip out of his glass of beer, and he thought nothing about it. And he was quite a man in that sense, very broad-minded and always helping others, and had a perspective of life and about his bank and banking affairs. So I said yes, sir, and so I'll cut it short. The drink came. Boy, Bada Baba ke liye drink liya, it came. And I picked it up, and I wanted to, I was very uncomfortable with my father. I always was. I was the eldest. I used to get all the caning for the youngers. Whoever made a mistake, I used to get caned. So that was it. So I quickly put down that drink, and of course my father, looked way beyond me, over my head. And then he asked me this question. He said, so Bennett, how have you done in school? So the buzzword in those days, which we all learned, if you did Cambridge and all, was that you earned or you strived for a distinction. So I said, sir, I think I will get a distinction, which is over 75% marks. So he said, oh, is that so? And then he looked down at my glass, and then he asked me this pointed question. Would you like another drink? I was not about to say no and give up. So I said, yes, sir, I would like to have another drink. So he said, boy, Bada Baba ke liye drink. The second drink came. Then again, I picked it up. I was sipping it. And meanwhile, he asked me, he says, have you thought what you might like to do after this? So I said, yes, sir. You've been flying me all over the country. I've never been home. I've been some uncle or with some Maharaja of Kuch Bihar or somewhere else, wherever your, area of coverage was. And I said, I would be put into a cockpit by some Captain Abraham. Then I would land up in Dibrugarh, where you would collect me in the evening. So when I landed there at 9 in the morning, the whole day I'd be in a hangar, loafing around, nobody coming to collect me. And I said, I used to jump into aircraft and sit with engineers and all. I was quite fascinated with planes. So he said, oh, I see, is that so? And then he looked at my glass down, and then he asked me, he said, Ben, do you think you can have another drink? So the pointed question, and I wasn't about to give up. I said, yes, sir. So he said, clearly how it came. Then I picked up the glass, and when I reached my lips, he said, hold on, son. And I was frozen there, and he said to me, looking right into my, he said, you must remember to recognize your last glass. So that was such a statement that I put my glass down. And I remember thinking to myself, you see, he had made us study literature, though we were science students. And I loved literature. Mill on the River Floss, Wuthering Heights. Such lovely books we read, even though we were science students. And I really thought about the sentence that he came out with. It has taught me from that day to recognize the last glasses of my life. And it always taught me my limits, and I knew my limits. So, these two things actually fit like a glove. And that is, any change that you see, you will see an opportunity in it, and you must pick up that opportunity. Now, I, together with this, as a thing that I saw throughout my growth, we were also in these schools and in NDA taught self-discipline. You had to do everything yourself. You realize at the end of the day, say in NDA or in school, any achievement that was that you had or you got was entirely done by you. You saw it, you strived for it, and you got it. So personal discipline combined with the will or the willpower to succeed and to bring about change in your work environment or whatever task is given to you was something that I learned by the time I reached NDA. And that is why, as probably, you just read out my trophies and all the rest. I didn't do well at all in NDA. I was a boxer. I played NDA cricket and all. I excelled outdoors. And in academics, I just scraped through. But when I went to the Air Force, right from the first stage itself, I got the academics trophy. And in the last stage, I got all the 3 trophies, barring one. So, this whole thing of training is what came to the fore in the war. So every fighter pilot, aspires to get into the war because that's what you're training for every single day. So in the fighter stream, every mission that you do, even in peacetime, actually relates to a war scenario. The only thing that you're not doing is you're not crossing the border, but you're still in your own territory. You take off, you don't know whether you're coming back. You're doing air combat, you're doing gunnery, you're firing bombs. You're firing guns, you're firing rockets, and you're dispensing bombs. And you're passing over that area. So you could get hit, you could make a mistake, and it could be fatal. There's nothing, and you're flying at very high speeds.
Actually,
All
when
the
you go
speeds
for
that we
missions, if I may say, sir, when you are going on missions, I think the biggest thing that is with you is your mental toughness. And that is what you learned from your day one. Now, this is the same
That's right.
question that I'm going to request Air Commodore Ali to please shed some light on, sir, that mental toughness as a pilot and resilience, they are not mere words, sir. They become your career, they become your life, they become your nature, they become your muscle memories. And sometimes you just act out of reflex, and that reflex is based on training. Sir, how did you practice the same? And why I'm asking this is because there are many young boys and girls who are looking at both of you for that nugget of wisdom. So, mental toughness and resilience, how did you practice them? How did you make them work for you? How did you make them your tool? This is what I want to ask you, sir. Ali,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you, Rishika. So what I want to tell you first thing is, failure comes before success, even in the dictionary. Correct?
Yes.
I never took failure in my life at all. I'll give a little background why I'm talking about this. Is when I joined the Air Force, my mother did not want me to join the Air Force because she said, "Ye haram ki maut hai." So I couldn't join the first course. But secondly, what I did was I gave my friend's address and joined Karambaya's address, Guru, and joined through his address and told my mom when I was leaving for Coimbatore for my training that I'm going for a TA state job. Now, for all the interviews and all the medicals, I sold my college books, not realizing if I don't get selected when I come back, how am I going to tell my parents what I did with my college book?
Oh my God,
But
that is quite a
because
story.
I never thought of failure. I always thought I would succeed. And Kuru will bear me out. When we were in training, we were such big courses that the only way to pass them out on time was to suspend a lot of them. I never got scared that I'd be suspended. We were about 250 cadets, only got commissioned 180. So there was a mass execution of people being suspended. I never took it in my stride. I said, I cannot fail. I have to pass. So what I'm trying to say is that mental toughness, which you're talking about, there's a famous saying, life's many failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. How many bulbs, this person who created the bulb, Thomas Edison, how many bulbs he must have broken before the actual bulb was made? Stevenson, how many railway engines he must have broken before he became successful? So that toughness, the mental toughness is what matters in today's. I see 30 and 40-year-old boys who in the IT system are burning out at an early age. They've got heart attacks, they've got sugar, they have BP. Whereas in the Air Force, what we get the discipline in training has withstood us. The fear and courage go hand in hand. If you don't have fear, you don't have courage. When General Sagat Singh in 71 war, as a 4 Corps commander, took on the task of using the helicopters to airlift troops across the mighty Meghna and the Padma rivers of East
I've heard
Pakistan,
about that. Yes.
an air bridge, which was the turning point of the war. No doubt our fighters had got air superiority within 24 hours. But it was the helicopters which did this movement of the troops, brigades. Can you imagine, we lifted 7,000 tons and nearly 250 troops in one night, just so that the Sylhet battalion was not without any admin support. That changed the war. In fact, General Niazi did not realize that we were at the outskirts of Dhaka. I give a lot of regard to General Sagat Singh for taking this bold decision. In fact, when I went to Bangladesh in 2015, the veterans of our Indian Air Force and our Indian Army and the veterans and the serving officers of Bangladesh did say that we hold your armed forces in high esteem. Without you, today we would be wearing Pakistani ranks and not being wearing the Bangladeshi ranks. I've seen that at close quarters, and it teaches a lot of lessons. But one thing what I'm going to mention is discipline. What we get imbibed in the armed forces in discipline has stood me in good stead even today after 20 years of retirement. Discipline in my fitness, discipline in my diet, discipline in my time management, which unfortunately in the civil is not. I can't say anymore, but you know what I mean. I go for a function which says it's 10 o'clock and there's nobody there at 10 o'clock. Anyway, what I'm saying is it helped me to what I am today, and I give. Now talking about valor, see, the Kargil War was a good example of courage and valor by our youngsters. How they went on the bare hills, climbed up with the Pakistani shooting at them, and still captured those heights, Totaling and Tiger Hill. I think this is something when today's youngsters should look up to. What Batra did, what other officers did. I think it is something our youngsters today should learn.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Answered. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
That was
I'd like
wonderful.
to
This was a beautiful share.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
I think
No, you go ahead.
No, sir, go ahead, please.
No, I just wanted to add, mental toughness. I was just coming to that part. It's your personal discipline that makes you understand that you have a task to accomplish. Okay? And when you accomplish that task, it's a mental state that makes you do that mission accomplishment. And there are, my personal example, for example, of getting shot down comes from this, from mental toughness. After finishing a mission, we are going back home. There is no need at all for us to move into another mission on the same sortie. But we did it. But we did it.
And Guru,
we just got a call. And asking us to examine a particular area. We went there, and lo and behold, we detected the strategic reserves quite by accident. And then we went and attacked that. Three more attacks. In fact, it would be very, interesting for you to know that there was an army officer who'd been looking for me for 49 years, Colonel Chand. And he found me at a school gathering where he asked an air marshal, "Do you know this fellow Kurvila, 71 war? I've been looking for him." I told my battalion commander, he said, I was brigade major. I told my battalion commander, we must find out who this guy is and we have to recommend him for a gallantry award. And then he asked this air marshal, "Do you know whether he really got it?" And the air marshal said, "Not only did he get it, you witnessed the whole thing. You saw him going down." Yes, he came back. He was a prisoner for 1 year. So this mental toughness is, for people like us, we can call it a part of, say, wanting to finish a mission. mission accomplishment. Unless you're mentally tough, you wouldn't want to go and get into another skirmish. If you say, okay, I finished my job for today, let me go back home. That's not the way. That's not mental toughness at all. Or when you get captured on the ground by soldiers who are bashing you up in the heat of the war, and you stand there and you take it, all right? And then you put your chest out and you know that you're unarmed and you're getting hammered, but I never kept quiet. I opened my mouth and I said, you're striking an officer who's unarmed. And there was a Baluch sergeant who understood it perfectly well. And he was the guy who actually saved me. Had I just kept my mouth shut, the Punjabi soldiers who were agitating to shoot me would have shot me. So you have to, and there are other things that happened in the prisoner of war camp that, that always told me that I am mentally tough. And as Ali has said, I still get up at 4 o'clock. I'm always ahead of time wherever I go. I do my exercise, very careful about diet. And, at 76 and 77, we are fitter than anybody walking on the streets.
And,
I think.
and
That comes from mental fitness, mental toughness.
And Guru, you were a young officer, flying officer, just 3 to 4 years of service, and you endured the imprisonment of 1 year.
That's right.
And after coming back, subject to intelligence debrief. My God, it must have been traumatic for you.
It was frightening because I was the youngest. I didn't have any peer group friends.
Yeah.
So they just put me in a room and said, okay, on so-and-so day, you took an aircraft, on so-and-so day, you've come back. What happened in between? Write. So imagine, you have to write. And you don't know what others are writing. You don't know what the guys who came back earlier wrote. You don't know what the intelligence civilian community knows about you. They're waiting to interview you also, to question you. So it was a nightmare coming back. But I remember, I don't know if you read that email. I think, the Air Chief Tyagi stepped in very nicely, because I remember Nana saying, oh, I didn't know that Guru had felt this way. But as Tyagi said, yes, it's a part of the intelligence process to put everybody through a debrief. And yeah, it's true, he was too young and he would have felt abandoned and felt that, oh my God, I've come home now. I'm getting a crossfire from all sides, even at home. But look at it like this. I was the only officer to be posted back to my original unit. That itself tells the story.
That's
Fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown.
Because when we had to talk to troops in Bangladesh, we did not know where we are going when there will be ground fire. And today's aircraft, most of the helicopters are all having modern equipment like GPS, weather radar. We flew the Mi-4, which had nothing, no autopilot, no weather radar, no GPS, and we still managed. And in a war, when there's blackout everywhere, you cannot make out a village, you cannot make out anything except the moon shining on the river.
But here I would just like to ask both of you a question. I really want to ask. Both of you gentlemen have endured war. You have been there in the thick of it, sir. But times have changed and so has technology. And a lot of artificial intelligence is coming in, where it was more of your skill and your instinct and your gut. Well, the same things stand today also, but aided with a lot of technology presently. So, sir, with a lot of technology,
like the drones coming in, Now suddenly the technology is saying, yes, absolutely right, Yashika ma'am. That was very well put.
I really want to ask you that aapke time se abhi tak, the journey has been like more than 50 years from 1971 war till date, sir. So with this artificial intelligence and drones coming in swiftly and many more technology. Right now I was listening in the news that we have got a new ship that can detect missiles almost 2,000 kilometers away, named INS Dhruv. So, sir, what kind of role do you see for aspiring pilots? Because many young boys and girls who are listening to us, maybe they will be flying some fighter jets in near future. So what do you have to say to them, sir, in this change of technology coupled with your own guts and instincts and your skill? Ali, sir, please, if you can go first.
See, what I'm saying is automation is good. This modern new technology is very good, but eventually a machine has to be flown by a pilot. The automation cannot replace the pilot. Automation and technology can only assist the pilot. That is what I'm trying to say. Artificial intelligence may be good, but
What did you say, Ali? I didn't hear that.
what we saw in Afghanistan, a lady sitting in Chicago or somewhere, and she's killing people in Afghanistan through drones. They are all suffering from mental things. They say, why are we doing this? Why am I killing somebody who I don't even know? We are not even at war with that country. Why are we killing the civilians? So here, what if the fighter pilot? I'll tell you a case of discipline. When a pilot is flying and suddenly a airline intrudes into your country's airspace, and you are scrambled to go and shoot down that aircraft, you go there and you ask them, what should I do? If you're that young blood, you might just press the trigger and kill it, isn't it? But discipline says no, he'll wait for orders to first ascertain whether it is a friendly, he's just strayed into Indian airspace or he's actually come for spying. So mainly, once you wear that uniform, that pride, that discipline automatically comes in to obey rules and regulations. Guru, you
It's
got
very
something
well
to say
said.
about this?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of depth to what Sir just said, Yashika, when we talk about mental fitness, which is so important to all of us, and I think of you as a role model for so many women. How do, in a situation which is such a tough situation, being in forces, how do women keep themselves mentally tough? And any particular share that you would like to share with us and let other women know what it feels like to be in the forces?
First sentence that I will tell you, Shefali, is uniform is such a great equalizer. Academy is such a great equalizer. When you wear that uniform and when you wear those stars and when you wear that beret and when you give that salute, oh my God, there is no different way that a male officer does it or a female officer does it. It is, we are officers and we take oath of allegiance to that tricolor, to uphold that constitution, to uphold this country. And so I think that the way both the genders are trained is same. Yes, the timeline has been different. We've always had male officers, and since last 29 years, we have got lady officers in Indian Army. Air Force took them little earlier, same as Navy. I came from the fourth batch, that is in the year 1994. And that time, lady officers were very few. I am 77 number lady officer. So they were just not even first hundreds. So I still remember that I was posted in my first unit, and these infantry jawans had come to collect the stores for their regiments. Ordnance, I was posted to an ordnance depot. An ordnance depot ka kaam hota hai to issue everything from a needle to aircraft spare. Everything. So these Jawans who had come from a Sikh regiment, they were like 6 feet plus, and add to it their turban, and they were lambe, chaude, hatte, katte, and they were coming, two of them, and I was coming from the other side, and the infantry Jawans not have any idea that lady officers have started into army. For them, I was like a fancy dress child. एक छोटी सी जिसने वर्दी पहनी है. They could not understand that ladies have started coming to army. So they just looked at me. They peered at me like this, trying to understand कि ये क्या चीज है. And then I just stood. I pointed at my stars, and I said Jai Hind. And then they were just jolted into that. Oh, she's an officer and ये तो बोल भी रही है. So they saluted back and said, Jai, madam. And I walked off and I could see both of them talking gitter pitter ki ye kya humne dekh liya. So that time to be just a single lady officer in midst of this whole establishment and to hold on to your to make your presence very, felt. That if a male officer is doing a job, say, I have to do it 10 plus 1. I have to do it better than that. And I see that after 27 years of my passing out from academy, now it gives me great joy that many officers are getting permanent commission. Not only permanent commission, they are also being now elected for the conference of commanding officers. NDA is now being open to girls. Yes, yes, it's not going to be easy because it was never meant to be easy. They will have to prove themselves.
That's
Mental
true.
toughness is here. It's here. And these
Yes.
girls will have to prove every bit of it. And best of luck to them.
Thank you so much for this shares. So much for this. This is going to be so inspiring for so many young girls wanting to listen to you. I would like to ask a question to Commodore Kuruvilla. And sir, I want to know that Indian Air Force is the tip of the spear in a battle. This requires it requires leadership by example. For young students watching our session, please explain why leadership by example is so important and the bedrock of decision making. Why is it that important, sir?
Well, I could finish this in one sentence. Pakistan has lost every war with us because there is no officer leading the battle. As simple as that. Leaders, you see, for a young person to understand what leadership is, it is actually assuming responsibility for the men, the material. I'm talking about our scenario. The men, the material, and whatever has been placed at your disposal, and the aim that you have been given. You have to fulfill that. You see, that's where earlier what we spoke about mental toughness, everything, it all comes in. It's all a mixed bag, but you sort it out and you put it together, right? And that is what creates a good leader. You utilize every aspect of your growth in service, all right, which includes your grooming as an officer, your grooming as a pilot, okay, your association with the men that you command, their loyalty to you, and how they listen to your orders and take instructions from you, and they execute them. So as a combination, when you are given a task, it's like so many people working together, and singularly, there's just one aim. And when you put all your efforts together and it materializes as one shoulder to the wheel, that in a nutshell would what I say is good leadership. And you do it that by personal example. Your men are watching you at all times. You're in a very closed environment. It's not like being in a city. You're in a confined place where you're being observed by your seniors, your peer group, and your men whom you command. So your personal example at all times. As Ali said, and I put it later, even today we are retired. Nobody is watching us, but we watch ourselves. We are still leading by personal example, whether it's your family, whether it's your staff, whether it's your friends, whether it's the civilians that you deal with, or the community or the resident welfare association. Everybody sees it. I get comments and compliments and everybody saying this question. So it becomes a part of your life that you imbibe and put together all these facets of training, which include professional training, discipline, your growth, keeping your eyes and ears open, what you learn on the job, everything. It all combines to give you that charisma called leadership. And it is really something that is not easily acquired. You have to work for it.
Can
Not
I ask
all.
Yashika a question, please? Yashika,
So,
you've seen the movie Gunjan. I don't agree with that, what they showed. Did you have any discrimination in the when you were wearing the uniform?
so discrimination, I will not say the word discrimination, but yes, I will say that I had to prove myself till the last day I was wearing my uniform. And I did that very proudly. I took it as a badge of honor, and
Yes.
not discrimination, but proving. If someone said a lady officer cannot do this, I would go and prove them wrong and did it even better than anyone else. Sir, I was part of Kargil war. I was pregnant at that time, but I did not for a minute felt that my medical condition is anything less than normal. And sir, when everyone saw me working like that, their spine stood up straight. And I think just my presence was enough to lay down new rules for Indian Army. They started posting more and more lady officers to extreme cold climate and high altitude area. So I think it's not a discrimination, it's matter of proving yourself. And I don't think
Yes.
not having a toilet, yes, I did not have a toilet, but I made sure that I used gents' toilet because there is a flush there. And I would go and use it, and officers would be standing out for their turn. And I would very proudly come out and say, now you can use it. I never said that I'm any different. I was one of them, just one of them, wearing the same olive greens. So, yes,
Further adding to Kuruvalla's thing of Pakistani leaders, in Kargil, they refused to take back their dead because they said they are not our regular officers, they are mujahideen. And
Yes.
we, the Indian soldiers, buried those Pakistani dead, covering them with, and handing it over to the Pakistanis. That shows the leadership difference between the Pakistan and Indian army. In fact, I met them after the surrender in Chittagong. We used to be shopping together, the Pakistanis as vanquished and we as victors. And I used to ask them, but the problem was, they were not ashamed of having surrendered. They said, we had a good time there. Sad. But the way we looked after the prisoners of war, the way we looked after the prisoners of war has earned us accolades from the world past. And the way we looked after Dhaka after the surrender ceremony to bring in stability, because Pakistanis before surrendering, they had destroyed all the water pipelines, the electricity lines, everything. And we had to get everything back to normal. And this is the good part of the Indian Army, that they looked after the POWs and they looked after the civilians and ensured there was no firing.
sir, that is why officer and gentleman, that is the word we started with. And I think that defines the Indian Armed Forces. Yes, Shafali.
I was so taken aback by all these stories, and they become so alive when people of this nature come and share these experiences with us. It is such a beautiful feeling of hearing these stories. And what I just understood from Commodore Ali is that integrity is so important. Like, we had the integrity, and we gave the last rites or whatever to the Pakistani soldiers, and their own people refused to accept them. I mean, how if we were patted by the people, the rest of the world, I think that's exactly what we did. There is so much to learn from the officers here. It is unbelievable. I mean, this is such a pride for us to have you on this session, sir. CatFit definitely believes in physical fitness and mental toughness. But what I learned today here is that change leads to new opportunities. A lot of times we are pushed right. There is nothing else to lose. So I think that is the time to wear your new gear and start moving forward. Mental toughness really matters. If one door closes, many will open. It's just a matter of looking in that direction. And we should not look at those doors which are already closed, because this is a human phenomena. I think we start looking at that direction which is all shut and closed. But I think what you have just taught us is that opportunities are there, and mental toughness is all about right here. So I think this was a great learning experience. I'm sure that a lot of people are going to benefit after hearing this session. Thank you so much, my esteemed panelist, for being a part of this session. CatFit always makes sure that we always get new kind of programs and programs that inspire people out there. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you, and happy Ganesh Chaturthi to all of you all.
Thank you so much, sir. It means a lot. Happy
Wish you,
Ganesh Chaturthi to you
yes,
also as well. And I hope the Vignaharna takes care of everybody and all the obstacles are all removed
yes,
from the path.
Nice
that's
Thank
right.
you,
meeting you
sir.
all.
Thank you so
Nice meeting
much.
you all.
Jai
Have a
Hind,
Good
nice
night.
Hari
day.
sir. Jai Hind,
Thank
Kuruvilla
you.
sir.
Jai Hind, sir.
Good
Honored to
night.
have you.
Jai Hind.
Jai
Jai
Hind.
Hind.
Bye bye.
Jai Hind, sir.